Well, hello folks, welcome to Our Commerce. Paul here. Unfortunately, Nadine, our Friday night concert was planned, but sensibly cancelled like all the other events. But we're going to try and crack on and do as good a job virtually as possible. I'm delighted to be joined by Brian McAlpine, who's in Glasgow. Hello Brian, how are you doing? One of you was at the concert with me last year at the festival. We'll ken exactly how good he is. He's just a tremendous musician, and it's a pleasure that he's joining me today. So, I'm going to start with a couple of tunes by James Scott Skinner. I've been playing a lot of his music the last few weeks because I've been endeavouring to record all of his 700 compositions, which is proven to be, it's a bit of a trudge actually. I've recorded 240, which means I've only got to about 460 to go. So we're started anyway, but yeah, at least it's they start with the first thing. Anyway, we're going to play a couple of his best Kent pieces. The first is a hornpipe called The Mathematician, and that's followed by The Hurricane. Tunes to get going there. So this, I have decided to do it like a concert. Start at the beginning and go right through to get a sense of continuity and really a sense that you listen to a one-off performance. I could have done this in sections, played one set and then warmed up the next one, deleted a badding, but I'm going to try and do this in a one-off so that you get a sense of flow about the thing. The only time I'm going to pause this is when we go to Brian in Glasgow, but it means that there may well be a few fluffs, but it'll be a one-off performance. It'll never be quite the same, so we're up and running now anyway. One of the things we do in the house, there is different noises can be heard, and I've got my Border Terrier Dougal at my feet. He's going to be 17 next month, so he's snuffling about and making noises, so if you hear that, it is not my belly. Okay, so we're going to move on now. Less nonsense, more music. Starting with a couple of tunes by William Marshall, one of Scotland's greatest fiddle composers, come from Murray. And this is a tune called the Marquis of Huntly's Snuff Mill. I used to think the snuff mill was probably like a big water mill or a meal mill. Where you grind up the tobacco leaves into a fine powder to create snuff. Because I thought, well, it must be made in a mill. But actually, folk used to carry their snuff mill. It's like a box, often very ornate. They would carry them with them and keep their stuff and take a pinch and snuff it up their nose whenever they felt the need. And I think it's probably more to do with that. So I would imagine the Marks of Huntly probably had a very ornate one. So it was probably notable enough that Marshall felt the need to write a tune about that. So anyway, but then again, it maybe is about a mill. I didn't ken. I'll need to do some research about that. But anyway, we're going to move on to one of Scotland's finest strathspeys. That is Craigellachie Brig, which was written to commemorate the opening of the bridge, which I think it was built by Thomas Telford, I think. And then we'll finish with the fairy dance by Nathaniel Gow. And Nathaniel was the fourth son of the famous Neil Gow, who's regarded as the father of Scottish fiddle music. And this would be Nathaniel's best Kent tune. He wrote a lot of good music, but this it's a standard. I mean, it should be in just about any Scottish fiddler's repertoire. So here we go. It might be virtual, but I still need to tune up. Tunes. I'm going to hit to clip this. You have to be careful doing this, you see, because if you just pull them out like that, you can pull all the hair out, because all that's hidden that is in his wedges. There we go. Oh, that bouncing bow has been too much. So, I've actually had snuff once. I think it was a Glasgow Gaelic Society or Glasgow Caledonian Association dinner in Burnham near Dunkeld. And at the end of the meal, they come round with it was a black ram, a black-faced ram's head with a massive big horns and a solid silver lid on the top with a cairngorm in the middle, and it opened up and then it was full of snuff. So it was an old thing actually. It's a little bit unnerving hearing it looking at you, but I did try it. I didn't care for it very much. So that's actually, you put it on there, this bit here is called your snuff box, and you snuff it up your nose. It's supposed to be good for you, but anyway, nay for me. Right, next tune is another tune by James Scott Skinner. It's called Sir William Wallace, and it's a big, heroic bit of music, just like the man himself. And when I come across this a few weeks ago, it was actually very close to the date or the anniversary of the execution of William Wallace down at Smithfield in London. So it's a tune I'd never really played much in the past. I'd heard it, but it's quite a daunting piece of music, and there was other tunes I was playing and I never really dabbled, but I'm going to play it for you now. One of Skinner's masterpieces called Sir William Wallace. That's quite a demanding bit of music to play. So something a little less demanding now, a couple of my own tunes. I quite like writing music, and I've written quite a few now. There's one of Skinner yet, but we're wearing at it. The first thing is, they're both hornpipes actually, but the first thing is called Andrew Smith at their Fins. That was written for one of my best pals, Andrew, who was a fiddle player and long-term friend that I'd kent since 1981, and we had a lot of adventures and a lot of good crack together, but he sadly died of cancer a few years ago. So I wrote this for Andrew, and then we're going to play a tune called Bees in the Lum, which if you follow our Friday Night Live for the Lounge Facebook concerts that we've been doing during lockdown, you might have noticed that we had a swarm of bees turned up. Very dramatic it was, and it was like something for a horror movie actually, and they all just disappeared in an unused lum chimney, and they took up residence for a couple of weeks and then just buggered off. But at the time, it was very dramatic, and I was sitting in the garden. I mean, they weren't bothering anybody really, although you did have to wonder. But apparently, they've gorged themselves on sugar and are drowsy and unlikely to be wanting to sting folk at that sort of stage when they're moving. So we're safe enough, and I just sat and wrote this tune as it was happening. So Andrew Smith at our fins and Bees in the Lum, and then we're going to hear a couple of tunes for Brian McAlpine on the piano. They've now departed. I reckon far they are now, but they've gone, that's for sure. So I'm going to pause myself here, and we're going to pass it over to Brian in Glasgow, who will tell you if he's going to play, and a couple of sets with him. But we'll see you just shortly.
Okay, so I'm going to go into a tune called Five the Castle, into a tune called The Earl of Hindford.
Fantastic playing for Brian. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to hear him. Brian's one of the folk that I find, like any good musician, I find that playing with good players brings out the best in you. And although we're playing virtually, I can say with absolute authority that when I've played with Brian live, it really brings out the best in you. So it's a pleasure to have Brian here, and great thanks for supporting the festival. And it is a very difficult year. So I'm going to play an air now. My newest tune, I wrote this just less than a fortnight ago. It's called To the Mountain Here. And less than a fortnight ago, I ventured up into the Cairngorms. First time properly, although I did a bit of Lochnagar a couple of times last year. I never made it to the top. It's the first time I've been up the Hero of Munro in about 3.5 years. And that's, well, health. I had blood clots in one leg, and I've had cancer and Bell's palsy. And then this year, great expectations to get up, and the coronavirus meant we kind of, because it was shielding, that we weren't able to get out. So there was that. And then it was as busy. I mean, I was hoping to get up Lochnagar, but it was carnage up at the car park. So I just avoided folk. But I did go up a couple of weeks ago and got up the top of Carnosta, which admittedly isn't the hardest one to get to. But I got to the top and felt quite elated. And actually near the top, I was watching the mountain hares, and there was quite a few. I saw quite a few grouse, but they were completely unconcerned by my presence, and they were probably looking at me thinking, he is in some red up, that boy. Yeah, he's not going to be much of a threat. So it was a pleasure. It put me in a good mood, and pretty much instantly I had this music come to my head. So I sang it into my phone, which is never great, but enough for me to take the melody home and notate it. So I'm going to play this for you now, To the Mountain Here. Pleased with that. Well, I like it. I like all my tunes. In fact, there's quite a few I didn't really care for, but there are certain tunes that really, to me, feel like that's got something about it. So I'm pleased with that. So To the Mountain Here. Going to play a medley of tunes now. First, again, it's one of my own. It's called Return to Kincraigie, and that was really to commemorate when Shona and the boys and myself moved into the Maids of Kincraigie after my granny had been out of the house for a couple of years. And it was just a big part of my childhood, because this is where the dairy was. My granny and granda were here for as long as I can mind. They moved here in 1971 from the dairy, moved from Downside down to Kincraigie. And biding at Altoon with my folks and my brother and sister, we were doing it at Kincraigie a lot. So it was almost like a part of home, actually, really, despite the mild difference. So it felt a bit like coming home to somewhere familiar. So Return to Kincraigie to start, then an old tune for the late 1700s called The Sailor's Wife, and then one of the great standard Scottish reels that's in every notable player's repertoire and every modest player's repertoire should be. It's called The Deal Among the Tailors. Anyway, we're at the end of the show. Thanks very much for looking in. It's not the same as the festival, but I think the festival have organised a great weekend of virtual events. And so well done to the committee, and in particular Shona. I'm going to mention her because I've seen firsthand how much work she's put in. I mean, she basically, the festival organised it and then it was cancelled. And I said to then organise a virtual festival, which is included having to edit a lot of folks' films together, etc., and chase folk up with emails. So a huge thanks to her in particular, but the rest of the committee, because they do a lot of work and it's a fantastic boost to the village to have something like this. It really is. So looking forward to next year. For it'll be better than ever. Absolutely better than ever. 100 times better. And so we'll look forward to seeing you there and a bit further down the road. Finally, just a big thanks to Brian for giving us his support. Difficult times for Abdi because he's a professional musician just like me, and as musicians we have to say first to lose our work and it'll be the last to get it back again. So it's funny times, but it's quite uplifting to see somebody prepare to just help out in these uncertain times. So I'm going to finish with a tune with James Scott Skinner. I was looking for something a bit different for finishing with things like the Orange Blossom Special, which I often finish with, or Chardash, or things like that are a bit kind of showy and a good finale. And I came across this tune a few weeks ago, and it's the kind of thing that I looked at in the past and thought, oh hell no, I'm not going to play that. But I was in a position for a head to play, because if I'm going to play Askinner's tunes, I can't just walk a waffy settings that I like a local. So it starts off very slow and dramatic, and it gets through to kind of full virtuoso stuff, hopefully. This is pretty ropey water, thin ice I'm walking on here. It's the type of tune, it's called a reverie. So I suppose you're kind of in rapture at the glory of the scenery. So I'm going to finish with this. If it doesn't go right, well, tough, you'll hate to be doing. So there you go. But it's a cracking bit of music. So Back to the Hills by James Scott Skinner to finish, and we'll see you later. Bit myself. Thanks very much, folks. Take care, enjoy the rest of the weekend, and we'll see you later.